half of the people working for the Florida National Guard, they were told to go home. After you get your license, it's probably something you don't want to lose. With fewer students entering academic buildings this year, there's a direct result in fewer dollars. In 2010, they were moved to the east coast of Florida. These doors will be locked after hours. Holding up signs similar to these and also handing out these stickers, I'd be able to stand right in your face and hold a sign, and now I have to be way over here. Good afternoon. Researchers at the former Dozier School for Boys continue to search for answers to get these applications into the hands of low-income families so they can stay connected. If you don't get the love bugs washed off soon enough, it could damage your car. The plan doesn't force a student to go to a Florida school. Greening and falling demand are threatening the future of the industry. The latest drought statistics show more than a quarter of the state is abnormally dry.
It's still pretty clear here in Tallahassee, but people across North Florida are preparing for Tropical Storm Karen as it moves closer to the state. While the federal government remains on shutdown in Washington, the Florida Panhandle is gearing up for Tropical Storm Karen.
I want to assure everybody that we're not going to let a government shutdown in Washington, D.C. affect our emergency response in Florida. We're clearly going to do the right things to make sure our citizens are safe.
Nearly half of the state's National Guard are on furlough, which the Guard acknowledges could cause difficulties.
Certainly the shutdown makes things a little more challenging, but we certainly are used to challenges, so we can get around that and make it work.
The Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association says they have seen very few cancellations for hotels across North Florida.
As people are calling in, we constantly want to make sure that our clients know we're prepared in the event that anything does happen.
Even though Tropical Storm Karen is still out in the Gulf, Florida State University says they're still expecting 77,000 fans to pack the stadium for this weekend's game. Fans are keeping their options open.
If I wake up and it's not raining, I'm still going to the game.
And if it is raining before when you wake up?
I might watch it on TV. Honestly, I don't want to risk being out in the storm.
Computer models differ on where the storm will make landfall. And from Destin to Tallahassee, there have been events that have been postponed or even canceled. So if you're going to be making your way to the Panhandle this weekend, make sure you call before you go to your event. Reporting live in Tallahassee, Matt Horn, Channel 4, the local station.
Well, man, I understand a lot of events have been canceled or postponed, but what about evacuations? Any ordered for people in the path of the storm?
Rob, here in Florida, there haven't been any evacuations, at least not any mandatory evacuations. The only ones that I've seen so far are south of New Orleans and Louisiana.
From Florida, Matt Horn now reports.
A Jefferson County judge resentenced 34-year-old Audra Akins to an additional 40 years behind bars for the attempted murder of British tourist Margaret Jagger, shorter than the original sentence of life in prison.
The court finds the only appropriate sentence consistent with the evidence that is fair and just to our system of justice is the 40-year statute.
In a robbery gone bad, Jagger and her late partner Gary Colley were shot at a North Florida rest area. Jagger returned from the United Kingdom to face her assailant.
Andre then made another bad decision to fire a loaded gun into our vehicle. Our holiday just turned into hell.
A lot has changed in the last 20 years, including the layout of this rest area. This was the general vicinity where the payphone once stood that Margaret Jagger made that 911 call saying that she and Gary Colley had both been shot.
We sent him to an ambulance. He's dying. He's really dying.
Reliving the nightmare 20 years later struck fresh emotions with Jagger.
It's very strange that it's 20 years tomorrow that Gary died. So it's pretty emotional.
Akins says he has changed since the shooting and asked Jagger to forgive him.
I'm not the kid that I was months before. I'm a grown man today, and I really want to make a difference. So I hope that you find the Lord forgive me.
Akins was 14 when he pulled the trigger. He'll be 85 if he lives until the end of his sentence.
Matt Horn with that report from Florida.
Just feet away from their grave sites at the former Dozier School for Boys, skeletal remains exhumed Monday afternoon are ready to be examined.
Preliminary analysis of dental remains suggests they're probably 10 to 13 years old.
A team of 25 researchers will now take evidence back to the University of South Florida to figure out just who was found in the graves and collect more evidence on the remains.
Get whatever information we can and write up a little narrative about that individual and send the samples off for DNA testing.
Horror stories from inmates beaten at the White House at the school sparked an investigation in 2008. The carvings are all that remain here in the halls at the White House where the alleged abuse happened. Researchers started looking at dozens of marked and unmarked graves last year after a law enforcement report was inconclusive. After a political tug of war with local officials, they began exhuming bodies this weekend. At least 50 bodies are expected to be found in unmarked graves. Plans are in the works to prepare for a longer dig this fall.
We've got to have power and water and sewer and lights. We've got to have everything you would need to operate for over a month.
Researchers will be back at the campus in October or November, depending on rain, to search for other forgotten former students who are believed to be buried in unmarked graves. Their goal is to return any remains to loved ones. Tiny insects are leaving their marks in what may be record numbers on cars across Florida.
Whenever I drive on the roads of Florida in this time of year, I expect love bugs, but this has been an unusually thick situation.
Anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to 1/3 of an inch, these tiny love bugs are hard to miss. After becoming an adult, a male and female will couple up and start the mating process. The insects are attracted to hot surfaces and car emissions, making their time together short-lived. Bob Goldman took his love bug-infested car to the wash Wednesday morning after a difficult time driving through a swarm of the pesky bug Tuesday evening.
My car has never been covered so much with love bugs.
Although it's hard to prove, those familiar with the insect say it appears there are more love bugs out this fall than in recent memory.
A lot more cars and a lot more bugs.
Cars are lining up to get the pesky bugs off the front of the vehicles, and experts say if you don't get the love bugs washed off soon enough, it could damage your car.
You get enough of them, they can actually block the radiator, but that's an exception.
Although the bugs are a nuisance for most, love bugs are harmless for humans and will be gone soon enough.